Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got lots of big stories I want to share with all of you today. So, first, before we get into the news, I want to apologize for not being here yesterday. Unfortunately, I did catch a cold over last weekend, and it was very mild towards the beginning, but yesterday it really hit me, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to get on here and record any news for you guys. I basically just rested for the entire day yesterday, and I feel a lot better today. Not 100%, but we're back at it for the most part. So I want to thank you all so much for your patience. And I did notice we got somewhere around like 300 subscribers last night. So I want to welcome all the new subscribers as well to the channel. So thank you so much for tuning back in today. We've got very big stories I want to discuss. And we're going to start with this one here on your screen. Ukraine begins mass producing Trembita missiles for strikes on Moscow. Okay, this is a report that just came out today from the Telegraph indicating that Ukraine is massively producing lots of missiles right now, not only the Trembita missile, but they're also working on some ballistic missiles and also upgrading their Neptune missile and mass producing that one as well. So we're going to be seeing strikes on Moscow here very soon, probably sometime this year. I would estimate maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, possibly, but by the end of next year, I think it's very possible that we could see Ukraine using their own domestically produced missiles to start striking the capital of Russia. So, also on your screen here, it says the cost of defending against these missiles will be massive. The cost of firing a Russian S-300 air defense missile can be anything between 300,000 to 2 million US dollars. Okay, so obviously air defense missiles are very expensive, and we've heard that these Trembita missiles that we reported on just a few weeks back can be as cheap as like 10,000 US dollars. Okay, so they're very cheap, not much more expensive than like a drone that Ukraine uses. Okay, now that's like the lower range missile that they are currently producing right now, but they are working on upgrading this Trembita missile to increase its range to be able to strike Moscow. Now, that one will be much more expensive, but still significantly cheaper than your standard cruise missiles or ballistic missiles that Ukraine is even producing right now. So, we're going to talk some more about this today, and I'll give you guys some more information. We also have reports last night of explosions being heard inside of Russia as UAVs were also being launched to attack multiple regions. So I've got some video footage coming out from Russia that appears to show some explosions somewhere inside of their territory due to drone attacks. And then as well, we heard that Ukraine came under attack also. We have reports of damaged buildings and some people being injured last night in attacks. I think Russia launched something like 93 drones into Ukraine. So we'll talk about that as well, and then numerous other stories that I want to share with you guys. Some of this information in this video will be new information coming out today, and I also have a few things that I wasn't able to show you guys yesterday as I was not here. I want to cram it into this video in case you weren't aware of some of the news that came out yesterday, so bear with me on that. So let's hop on over here real quick to the Telegraph. It says Ukraine's Moscow Malading Doodlebug missile is about to become very important. Okay, so we're going to go over this entire article. I think it's got a lot of good information that shows that Ukraine is preparing for major strikes inside of Russia using their own missiles. So here's a picture of the Ukrainian Neptune missile. This is domestically produced in their territory, but we're going to be talking about the Trembita missile. Okay. So it says here, with just 3 weeks left before U.S. President-elect Donald Trump takes office, the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden is rushing to supply Ukraine with as many weapons as possible. Biden is obviously worried that the impulsive, pro-authoritarian Trump will do what he has threatened to do and reduce or end U.S. aid to Ukraine. The Ukrainian government isn't taking any chances. It's hurrying to develop weapons it can build, pay for, and use all on its own, with or without the unreliable, unpredictable Americans. Ukraine's Trembita cruise missile might be the biggest symbol of its drive for firepower autonomy, anticipating the day when it will run out of bespoke American munitions, most notably 190-mile range Army tactical missile system ATACMS ballistic missiles. Ukraine is getting ready to build Trembitas and other long-range deep strike munitions, lots of them. Okay, note, it says lots of them. So we know right now Ukraine's going to be producing probably thousands of these Trembita missiles just because they're so cheap. You know, they can easily mass produce a lot of these. It's literally a DIY project that they basically started in a backyard inside of Ukraine, from what I understand. So these things are very cheap, very easy to produce, and they could just be striking targets all over Russia here very soon. Now, the payload on this thing is not very extreme, okay? The warhead is relatively small compared to some other missiles. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. I think it's got a 40-pound warhead, as it states down here. But if they produce a lot of these, they definitely could do some damage inside of Russia. So it says here just 7 feet long and weighing 200 pounds. The ramp-launched Trembita isn't much to look at, like a miniature modern version of Nazi Germany's V1 buzz bomb, also known as the Doodlebug. The Trembita combines a loud pulse jet engine with a simple structure, tube-shaped fuselage, and square wing, and simple guidance, GPS in this case. That simplicity lends the Trembita its best feature, its low cost. The basic Trembita under development since 2023 costs only $10,000. It ranges just 90 miles with a 40-pound warhead. PARS, the Ukrainian firm that builds the Trembita, is working on a bigger, farther flying version that should be able to reach Moscow, 400 miles from the Ukrainian border. That version, which should be ready in around a year, would undoubtedly cost more than $10,000, but would still be potentially the cheapest deep strike munition in the world, and ATACMS cost more than $1 million, okay? So you can see there's a very big difference, okay? Even if these things end up costing, $50,000, $100,000, compared to a $1 million ATACMS missile, that's very cost effective for Ukraine, especially when they're limited on funds, right? So there's no reason Ukraine can't acquire thousands of Trembitas even without foreign budgetary assistance. The same can't be said of the pricier homegrown deep strike munitions Kiev has been working on, Rim-2 ballistic missiles and Neptune cruise missiles, to name two. The scale matters to watch the massive Russian bombardment of Ukrainian cities, bases, power plants, and factories, attacks that have killed or wounded thousands of Ukrainians. Ukraine needs to massively scale up its own bombardment of Russian cities, bases, refineries, and factories. The small number of ATACMS and Storm Shadow Scalp, e.g. cruise missiles Ukraine has received from the United States, United Kingdom, and France aren't adequate for an intensive deep strike campaign. Several hundred ATACMS Biden has given Ukraine, according to the New York Times, might be the only ATACMS Ukraine ever gets if Trump throttles or eliminates U.S. aid as early as this month. To be clear, the Trembita is no ATACMS, Storm Shadow, or Scalp. It lacks the payload of the American munition, the penetrating power of British and French munitions, and the accuracy of all three, substituting smaller, less precise Ukrainian munitions for bigger, more precise foreign munitions would compel the Ukrainians to reconsider which targets it strikes and how. A barrage of Trembitas might work just fine against, say, a sprawling factory complex. It might not work so well against the underground command bunkers Ukrainians have been aiming their Storm Shadows at. Relying more on their own weapons, Ukrainians might have to resort to striking a different set of targets, but at least they could keep striking. The Biden administration still has few $billion in spending authority to provide new and surplus weapons to Kiev, and it's determined to use it. The munitions the Americans ship in the next few weeks won't last forever. The Ukrainians know the day is coming when they'll be, if not alone, more alone. They're getting ready. Okay, so you can see here, they're definitely preparing themselves to potentially be cut off from American aid. We don't know if this war is going to end soon. It's a very big possibility. We've been hearing that it could end in 2025, but maybe it won't. And if it doesn't end, and if Ukraine ends up on their own, or the U.S. ends up pulling support for Ukraine, they could definitely be on their own with just the support from the EU, and the EU may not be enough support for them to continue fighting against Russia. So they're preparing right now to be able to fight Russia on their own if need be. And they believe that deep strike capability is the next option to try to put an end to this war. Okay, so now we're going to hop on over to X, and I've got some things I want to share with you over here. So this is going to be from Max24. We've got a video to show you guys. So it says Ukrainian Trembita. Okay, so we've got a video that actually came out here December 25th, 2024, so just like a little over a week ago. And I wanted to show you this video, okay? Now, unfortunately, there is no subtitles. I believe they're speaking Ukrainian, and they're showcasing this Trembita missile, but I wanted to show this to you so you guys can see this thing in action as they're testing it out, since we're talking about this new missile, and we discussed it once before in the past couple weeks ago, and we did not show this video at the time. So go ahead and check this out. It's pretty cool.
Щойно ви побачили ексклюзив. Так виглядає нова українська ракета «Трembita», і саме ця зброя може долетіти до Москви. Про це пишуть у виданні The Economist. Над Трембітою розробники працювали майже 2 роки, і вона може стати справжнім викликом для російської протиповітряної.
All right, pretty cool video to see that thing being test fired and launched, and you can see it flies very quickly. So this is a cruise missile, not a rocket drone or missile drone like the Peklo and the Palinitsia that Ukraine currently has. So this thing will have some capabilities of striking deep into Russia eventually, potentially even striking Moscow. Now, what would they use to strike inside of Moscow with this? Probably maybe the refinery. We know the refinery in Moscow is a very big target. They could potentially use it to strike that. And maybe some other military targets over there. Would they even use this to try to maybe target the Kremlin? Who really knows? But this could be a very effective missile for Ukraine in the future. And we've seen just their normal drones that they're already using inside of Russia have been very devastating just to oil depots. So imagine the strike capabilities on many oil depots that are further deeper into Russian territory. They could be using this to attack those also. So moving on to another update from Bliskovka. This year, Ukraine plans to produce about 3,000 cruise missiles and drone missiles, as well as at least 30,000 long-range UAVs. This was announced by Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal. According to him, the plans of domestic defense companies include increasing their existing production capacity to $30 billion, okay? So they are definitely mass producing as much as they possibly can right now. Here's one of their drones that they use repeatedly to attack inside of Russia with. And they're mass producing, their ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, rocket drones, everything right now. They're trying to produce as many as possible. So 3,000 cruise missiles and drones, as well as 30,000 long-range UAVs. That's a lot of UAVs, just that alone, guys. 30,000, that's crazy. So 2025 is shaping up to be the year of massive attacks inside of Russia. And it's going to be the opposite of what we've been seeing just over this year and the year before, or 2024 and 2023, excuse me. So from Bliskovka, last night explosions were heard on the territory of Russia, reports Russian media. UAVs were spotted by residents of Rostov, Bryansk, and Oryol regions. In total, the Russian Defense Ministry reports 22 allegedly downed drones. Okay, so we've got a video here that appears to show some explosions. I can't really see a whole lot. It's dark over here, but you'll hear what sounds like some drones exploding in the background. So there definitely was some attacks inside of Russia last night from Ukraine. Take a look. Okay, so I let that roll a little bit more on the second time around in case you missed it in the very beginning, but there was an explosion that you could hear in the background in the distance from where this man was recording somewhere inside of Russia. So now we don't know what was being targeted inside of Russia last night, but you can see multiple regions here, Rostov, Bryansk, and Oryol region. So this was up here north of Ukraine, and then also west of Ukraine east of Ukraine and Rostov region also being attacked. Okay, so if we get some more information on what was hit later, I'll let you guys know. But this came out just early this morning, 12:18 a.m. on January 3rd. Okay, so moving on to another update from Bliskovka in Kramatorsk. A nighttime drone strike destroyed the entrance of a building from the 4th to the 2nd floor, the State of Emergency Service reports. There were no casualties, and rescuers evacuated 5 residents of the neighboring building. So we got reports inside of Ukraine of massive damage from drone attacks. This actually happened yesterday as well. There was major attacks across Ukraine. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that information out there to you guys. I was sick yesterday. But we're starting to see a ramp up of drones flying back into Ukraine again, as right around the new year and just before the new year, there was a major slowdown of drones being used. Maybe there was just a lot of Russian soldiers that were taking vacations. I don't know what was going on, but we were only seeing somewhere between 10 and 20 drones fired each day around New Year's. Now it's starting to pick back up again, and I thought this maybe had something to do with that major drone warehouse that was destroyed up in Russia, I think close to the Moscow region. I forget which region it was, but we reported a major drone warehouse that was destroyed recently. But looks like that is not the case. Russia's right back at it with their drone attacks. Here's some more information from the Ukrainian Review. Russia attacked 9 settlements in the Donetsk region. 1 person was killed, Donetsk region police reported. So we've got more explosions over here and destroyed buildings in the Donetsk region of Ukraine. And this is obviously very close to the fighting right now. So this is probably lots of shelling, maybe artillery, missiles being used, drones being used, targeting a lot of residential areas. And we can see more homes here that have been destroyed due to these attacks. Okay, so more civilian infrastructure inside of Ukraine to report that has been destroyed. All right. So now moving on to another update from Max 24, consequences of the strike by AFU on a Russian military ammunition depot in Vlasivka, Luhansk region. Okay, so there's reports that were just breaking today also that the Ukrainians could have destroyed another ammunition depot. And this shows a satellite image of what appears to be fire coming from the Luhansk region, most likely indicating that another ammunition depot was destroyed. So this was some information just breaking today. Unfortunately, I don't have any video footage or anything like that. Maybe this was a smaller ammunition depot, and it's right next to this town of Vlasivka, okay? So that was a report just breaking today. Also from Mosin Defender, according to the Russian Telegram channel, General SVR, the former president of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, fell deathly ill at his Moscow apartment on Sunday, with him beginning to cough violently and choke. After calling the medical assistance, tests are claimed to have revealed that he had been poisoned, with him having been treated at his home where he is now in stable condition. Okay, so a little bit of information on this story is this was actually being reported yesterday. Okay, many sources on X were sharing this information. Cannot confirm this completely yet, but there was a few small mainstream news that was starting to pick this up, and one of them being The Sun. Now, the fact that The Sun picked this up, I mean, I would say they're very major, fear spreaders. Is kind of how I describe The Sun. If you guys probably seen some of their articles, they speak very kind of like the Daily Mail, sort of. If you know the Daily Mail as well. So I'm not 100% sure if this happened, but I just wanted to get this information out there. So take this with a complete grain of salt, as a lot of mainstream news didn't even really pick up this story. But there is a possibility that Bashar al-Assad, the former leader of Syria, could have been poisoned recently in Moscow. And if this was the case, maybe this was something due to the recent fall of Syria and how Russia lost their control over there. Maybe they're trying to backstab Bashar al-Assad or something like that. So if we get more information on this also, I will let you guys know at a later time. But as far as I know, if this was the case that he was poisoned, he appears to be in stable condition based on the information that we've been receiving, okay? Now moving on to another update from Anton Gerashenko, occupied Marinka, Donetsk region. Residents tearfully share the footage of what is left of their relatives' homes after the arrival of the Russian world. Okay, so this is a city in the Donetsk region occupied by Russia called Marinka. And the residents here who were living in this area prior to Russia invading it, they're coming back to their homes completely destroyed. And you're going to hear a woman here. She's clearly crying and talking about all the homes, her home that's been destroyed, all of her neighbors' homes in this area. And this is what it looks like in some of the areas of Ukraine after Russia invaded it. Take a look at this.
Что мы в Маринке, на улице Шевченко. Это Сережа, это ваш дом. Все, что от него осталось. Вот так вот все выглядит. Ваши ворота, гараж. И вот дом.
Котел, Серега, цел, топить можно.
Котел, говорят, целый. Вот. Все, что... Вот так вот все выглядит. Ваниных дом. Мищенко. Вот дом. Что мы в Маринке, на улице.
Alright guys, very sad to see this. I'm sure this video should humble most of you and to make you, proud and happy and grateful to have the lives that you do, and hopefully you're in a peaceful country where you're not having to endure something like these people. Imagine living in these homes since maybe as a child, and all of a sudden one day war breaks out, another country invades, they completely destroy your home and everything, what's left of all your memories. So I can't imagine what these people are going through, and I like to show this to you guys so that way you see what's happening to the innocent civilians that have to endure this war over here, especially in eastern Ukraine. Okay, so very sad to show that. So moving on to another update from Max 24. 51% of Ukrainians are against any territorial concessions to start negotiations, according to a KIIS poll. Okay, so there's been several polls like this that have been coming out over the last 24 hours. I wanted to show you this one here. It says, chart 1, with which of these statements about possible compromises to achieve peace with Russia do you agree to a greater extent? And the orange indicates, in order to achieve peace and preserve independence as soon as possible, Ukraine can give up some of its territory. So 38% of Ukrainians believe at this point, as of December 2024, they should give up territories to Russia, at least some of them. And also 51% under no circumstances should Ukraine give up any of its territories, even if because of this war will last longer and there will be threats to the preservation of independence. 51%, so a large percentage of Ukrainians still believe that Ukraine should continue fighting and not give up any of their territories, okay? And I'm sure at this point, maybe that's how a lot of people feel over there, okay? They've been enduring this war for 3 long years now, and, it's only going to continue to get worse, but it looks like the Ukrainians are willing to continue fighting, at least a good majority of them. Also from Bliskovka, 57% of Ukrainians are ready to endure the war for as long as it will be necessary, according to another KIIS survey. So take a look at this also. 57% of Ukrainians being willing to endure this war as long as necessary to essentially win against the Russians, okay? So it looks like there is a good majority of Ukrainians still being willing to continue fighting against the Russians to obtain their freedom and make sure the Russians do not take them over and possibly even try to get their territories back that have been taken at the start of the war. All right, now on to another update from Max24. Germany expects Putin to end the war this year and is already sending signals, according to Bild publication. German officials believe that Russia wants to end the war due to rising interest rates, food prices, the ruble exchange rate, and due to 3-shift work of the military-industrial complex. A crisis is beginning in other industries. An event is also mentioned where the Kremlin prepared regional authorities for the 2026 parliamentary elections and for the end of the war, which will need to be presented as a victory. So we did report that not too long ago that the Kremlin was actually preparing to start presenting this war as if they won. This was a victory for Russia. It is highly likely this war is going to end this year, but let me know what you think down below. Do you think that Putin will want to end this war this year, or do you think this war is going to continue? Because we have been seeing some opposite reactions. The Russians have been pounding Ukraine very hard. They're continuing their offensive on the Eastern Front. They've even been wanting to open up some new fronts in the south. Kherson's been attacked a lot recently. The Zaporizhzhia region is also being attacked right now. It doesn't look 100% like Russia's preparing to end the war, but maybe when it comes to the Kremlin in the background, it looks like they could be potentially preparing for this war to end. So let me know if you think that's true down below. Also from Max24, the Russians have submitted a request to Ukraine about 50,000 missing occupiers, the head of the Secretariat of the Coordination Headquarters. In general, there are more than 100,000 missing people in Russia, and this is without taking into account the dead. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that 100,000 people missing is probably just from families that are actually, writing in appeals to the government to try to search for their missing family or loved ones. So imagine all the people that are not contacting the government to issue an appeal to try to find where their families are at. Those numbers could be much higher, but they're stating at least 50,000 requests have been submitted, to locate missing soldiers or people just missing in general on the front lines. So pretty crazy, okay? We could be seeing hundreds or 100,000 or more Russian soldiers that are missing right now just due to this war. So pretty insane news. Also moving on to Tendar, due to their air defense upgrade, Ukrainian USVs have not only decisively shifted the power balance in naval shipping in the Black Sea, but also caused Russian aerial vehicles, especially helicopters, reduced mobility. The coast of Russian-occupied Crimea is now an absolute danger zone for Russian pilots, and this in turn enables Ukrainian forces to strike the Russian coast of Anapa, Tuapse, and Sochi far more easier than before, threatening Russian shipping, both naval and commercial. So just a few days ago, we reported of a major attack that was down here on the western side of Crimea, very close to Sevastopol. There was a major battle ongoing there with Ukrainian USVs. These were Magura V5 naval drones, and they also had some Sea Dragon drones attached to them that they were using to attack Russian helicopters. I also have an update regarding that came out yesterday, that apparently there was more than one helicopter that was shot down that day. Originally that day we reported that there was only one that was directly hit, shot down in the water. Well, apparently there's been two now, and I'll show you that here in just a moment. And also a third one was damaged and reportedly landed at an airfield inside of Crimea. Okay, so this is kind of showing how much pressure the Ukrainian drones are now putting, and these are not only aerial drones but sea drones, putting major pressure around Crimea. So the Russians, with their any aerial vehicles, helicopters, warplanes, whatever it might be, they can't operate as much over here now, as these Ukrainian Magura V5 drones are putting heavy pressure on Crimea. So eventually, once they're able to chase away a lot of Russia's air force in this area, they're going to start moving over and attacking some of the bases over here in the ports, like the port of Novorossiysk, over here in southwestern Russia on the other side of Crimea. So that was a new report coming out today that I thought I would share with you guys. And here's that report regarding that second helicopter that was shot down. So this came out yesterday. This is from Anton Gerashenko. The Ukrainian sea drone attack on December 3rd downed two Mi-8 helicopters and damaged another one. Update from the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. The crews of the two destroyed helicopters were killed, and the third one managed to make an emergency landing. Russian military bloggers are sounding the alarm that the situation on the Black Sea has drastically changed against us. Helicopters were the only actionable defense against USVs, and now the Ukrainian sea drones have proven their ability to down aerial targets. It has been rendered ineffective. With helicopters out of the equation, Russia is suddenly playing catch-up to Ukraine's successful USV strategy. So apparently they try to use a lot of these helicopters. These are the Mi-8 helicopters. Two of these being shot down recently due to these Magura V5 naval drones with the Sea Dragon missiles attached to the tops of them. Again, we reported one was being shot down, now confirmed being two. A third one was damaged. So now these helicopters are not going to be so effective on attacking and destroying the Magura V5 drones down near Crimea. So that's why that report I was showing you guys earlier indicates that now they're going to be able to attack not only Crimea, but also southwestern Russia near like Novorossiysk, Sochi, Anapa, a lot of those coastal cities where the Russians also station their Black Sea naval fleet from time to time as well. Okay, so moving on to another update from War Translated Dmitry. During battles in the Kursk region, operators of Ukraine's Special Operations Forces, SSO, eliminated a North Korean Special Forces operative, Yong Hong Jong. Deciphered notes from the private's notebook reveal that North Korea is sending its soldiers to assist Russia so they can gain combat experience and maintain readiness for potential future wars. At the same time, North Korean soldiers are under orders to complete their missions, even at the cost of their own lives, thousands of kilometers away from home. Pretty interesting story coming out here. We've been hearing so much about the North Korean soldiers. Sometimes their bodies are being located or captured, and some of the Ukrainian soldiers will find notes on them, sometimes talking to other North Korean troops, writing letters to each other. This one apparently indicating that, they are being sent over there to gather combat experience, to be prepared for future wars. We know that any time North and South Korea could eventually get into war with each other. North Korea is preparing for war in the future. They've been preparing for months now, pretty much this entire year. So this was a new report also coming out today on a North Korean letter that was found on a soldier. So now moving on to Noel reports, NATO has no chance of defeating Russia without Ukraine, says Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the president of Ukraine. He's also a member of their parliament. And it says here he emphasized that Ukraine's role is critical to the success of the alliance in the ongoing war against Russia. Now, there is a report here, an interview that he was in. Unfortunately, there's no subtitles and it's not in English, so I'm not going to show it. But this was something he stated apparently during this interview. And Mikhailo Podolyak's actually been coming out a lot recently over the last day or so, talking about this war. And this is one thing that he mentioned today. He says that NATO has no chance of defeating Russia without Ukraine. So let me know if you think that's true down below. Moving on to another update from the Ukrainian Review, Podolyak, security guarantees there are no alternatives today. Pieces of paper like Budapest Memorandum or Minsk agreements are worthless. Russia must understand that as soon as they start aggression, they will receive a significant number of strikes in response. So this was Mikhailo Podolyak once again. He came out yesterday stating this. Now, I have to agree with this to an extent. As you know, if you're like a major superpower, obviously another major superpower is less likely to attack you. But during the start of this war, Ukraine was very weak militarily, so it was very easy for Russia to just kind of roll in. And also, Ukraine does not have nuclear weapons, so it was super simple for Russia to just go ahead and invade, push into Ukraine. And obviously, it's starting to backfire now that Ukraine has been building up their own defenses. Now they're producing all these missiles. That's kind of what he's talking about. That if Russia's going to aggress onto Ukraine, they need to have the ability to launch deep strikes into Russia and basically teach them a lesson that if they're going to attack Ukraine at all, they need to have their own defense and strength to strike back at Russia to make them quit. Okay, it's kind of what he's talking about. Also, for Max 24, there could be no negotiations. Negotiations are an illusion. Russia has not yet paid a high enough price for this war, says Podolyak once again. This also came out yesterday. So is this possibly indicating that maybe there won't be any negotiations in the near future? I think it's possible, but it all depends on what happens here very soon. We know a second peace summit is supposed to be coming up at some point as well. And Vladimir Zelensky is going to be attending this, and they're going to be trying to end this war. So I don't know, maybe that will come after the inauguration of Donald Trump. But let me know what you think down below. Is there going to be negotiations? Does Russia deserve a higher price to be paid before negotiations can be held? Do you agree with him or do you not agree with him? Share your comments down below. Also, for Max 24, again, Ukrainian men in Poland have started receiving fake summonses, the Polish Migration Office has reported. The authors of the letter threatened to prosecute the evaders and extradite them to their homeland if they fail to appear. So it looks like some of the Ukrainian men that were in Poland were receiving these letters, supposedly that were fake, telling them to return back as they were summoned, most likely to join back into the military into Ukraine, or else they would be extradited to their homeland and prosecuted. So some interesting information also coming out from Poland today. And then we also heard from Volodymyr Zelensky. He was coming out stating that he'd be willing to actually call on many Ukrainian men in European countries to come back to their territory to fight for Ukraine. And just return back to their homeland in general, but he was actually calling for more air defenses. So he was saying, okay, give us more air defenses, and then I'll go ahead and do that. So he was kind of saying, I won't do that until we get more air defense, which he's been calling for that for a very long time. Many members of the Ukrainian government has been requesting more air defense systems, and they've only been receiving a few, okay, recently. Also, from Anton Yeroshenko, inflation in Russia keeps growing. Economic experts say that real inflation hovers around 20% right now and will keep growing. Videos of soaring prices for groceries are going viral on Russian social media. Some Russians are also try complaining to their local authorities about this, unsurprisingly to no avail. And Yoshkar Ola, a local MP, member of parliament, Andrei Sakovich, was deeply offended by such requests. I'm congratulating people with the new year, and you write filth here. He reacted when a resident asked him about growing food prices in stores. If you do not want to be treated like a doormat, do not come here again, he told his opponent. So pretty crazy. I mean, we've been reporting a lot in terms of inflation inside of Russia. They're enduring extreme inflation right now, especially in grocery prices. So this video is going to show a man who is shopping inside of a grocery store inside of Russia and showing the prices of butter, how they've basically doubled just over the last couple of months. Take a look at this.
Короче, мы ведем горячий репортаж, просто прям вот горяченьким берем. Смотрите, сколько стоит масло. Вот такое масло. Сколько стоит такое масло? 365 рублей. Недельку назад 200 рублей стоило. 365 рублей. 160 грамм. 160 грамм. Я думал, что это прикол. Село зеленое. Село зеленое. Смотрим. 342 рубля. Это что происходит? Это с учетом неделя 200 рублей стоило. Это подорожание сколько? 80 сколько процентов? Хотя до этого еще за пару недель подорожало это масло. А в 2 месяца назад он стоило 161 рубль. Короче, мы ведем горячий.
All right, pretty crazy, right? So yeah, over the last few months, we've been reporting that butter prices inside of Russia alone have been skyrocketing like crazy. And you can see here, they've basically doubled just over the last couple of months, sometimes 80% increase in 1 week. So Russia definitely is experiencing high inflation, and we've been mainly seeing it in the grocery stores inside of Russia recently. So that was a new report coming out from this man today, just shopping inside of a local grocery store in Russia. So now moving on to another update from Military News UA. After the inauguration, Trump expects Zelensky to be one of the first to meet. Trump told me, "One of the first visits I will expect is you." He said that for him, the priority is to end the war, and he will do it. I think, yes, after the inauguration, we will have a meeting. I think we will start working already understanding the whole plan, the president said. So we heard from Donald Trump multiple times already that, the minute he gets into office, he's going to try to end this war. We've heard that he might even end it within 24 hours. I think that's highly unlikely at this point, but we are hearing that very soon after he's inaugurated, that Zelensky is going to be one of the first people he will meet with, and they're going to try to get this war wrapped up and ended as soon as possible, okay? So expect that to be coming here in the next 3 weeks or so. Also, for more translated Dmitry, the Crimean Wind reports that oil spills from sunken Russian tankers are now drifting along the western coast of occupied Crimea. Despite the lies of the so-called governor, Rozvazeyev, about isolated spots, the fuel oil has reached Sevastopol and Balaklava Bay. And in Yevpatoria, affected birds are being found which can no longer fly or keep warm due to the fuel oil coat and feather damage. Additionally, there's a deadly threat to marine life. Okay, so it looks like now inside of Crimea, or just off the coast of it, they're starting to find lots of this oil that has been spilled, as we had these 2 oil tankers just a couple weeks back that were basically breaking apart. I think one of them split in half due to rough waves, and there was a major storm going on down here in Crimea in the Black Sea. And looks like some of the residents were even able to find some of this leftover oil from these ships, even off the coast of Crimea. Take a look at this.
Ребята, вот и у нас мазут в Балаклавской бухте появился, пятно. Такое где-то 1,5 на 1,5 посреди бухты на входе. Ребята, вот и у нас мазут.
All right, so this was definitely a very major environmental disaster. We even showed you guys some videos of the city of Anapa, which we were just talking about towards the middle of this video, that there was lots of fuel all over the beaches, and many of the citizens had to go over there and start scooping up this oil, putting them into bags. And then at one point, they didn't even have equipment to haul any of this oil away. So major disaster that was reported down here due to this oil spill. Just wanted to give you an update on that. That oil is still being found off the coast of Crimea even until this day. All right, a couple more things to share with you before we get you out of here. This is from Bliskovka. Air Defense Forces of Ukraine destroyed 60 out of 93 Russian UAVs. Due to the active counteraction of the defense forces, 26 Russian imitators UAVs were lost locally without negative consequences, and 1 was lost in the air. So here's a little diagram to show you guys. 60 out of 93 Russian UAVs were shot down inside of Ukraine last night. So another major attack of Russian Shahed drones going into Ukraine. Looks like 93 in total. So moving on to another update now from the Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of January 3rd, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. So final update of the day, and we've got Russian losses being reported by the Ukrainians here. Looks like 1,080 troops being reported over the last 24 hours on January 3rd. 14 AFVs, 41 vehicles and fuel tanks, 1 tank, 3 artillery systems, 69 UAVs, 1 MLRS launcher system, and 3 special equipment also being destroyed, okay? So these are just some of the indicative losses being reported from the Kyiv Independent today that I would share with you guys. We usually do this towards the end of each video. So yeah, lots of news coming out today from this war. Just wanted to get you caught up on what's happening over here. And we should be back at this. I'm going to try to get more news pumped out today for you guys. And I'm feeling a lot better today. Not 100%, but still significantly better than yesterday. But thank you so much for your patience and for being here. And again, welcome all the new subscribers that have joined our channel just over the last 24 hours. And I hope you guys all have a great day today. Let me know what you think, all these details from this video today and with this news update. Share your thoughts, concerns, and opinions down in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.